So then guys, today I'm putting the iPhone 16 Pro Max against the Galaxy S24 Ultra head to head to see which one of these phones comes up on top. These two smartphones are probably the most popular flagship phones out there right now. But the big question is, which one is better? Now, the Galaxy S24 Ultra has been out now for a while. In fact, it came out around about January time. So, you know, it's been a long time since we've actually had this phone out. And obviously the iPhone 16 Pro Max, at the time of making this video, has only been out a matter of days. But still, we're going to compare both of them here. And first of all, let's have a look at the build quality of both of these phones and the overall design. So for design-wise on both these phones, they are very different. We can see here the S24 Ultra's got that kind of classic kind of like bar kind of look, literally a bar. So it's kind of got the sort of squared off edges more. And obviously the iPhone has the more rounded edges, as you can see right around it. That doesn't mean it's better or worse, which one. Obviously it's down to your preference there on that. But then looking at the actual phones here, both of them have got titanium on them. So we have titanium sides here. But what I would say is that the iPhone's titanium is a little bit more stronger than what we have on the Galaxy S24 Ultra. But on the rear material, I would actually say the glass here feels a bit more easier in your hand when you sort of slide your thumb over it, whereas this one's a bit more slippery on the Galaxy S24 Ultra, the glass back. Both of them got glass backs here, but then obviously the camera setup is very different on both of these phones, as you can see here. Apple have kept their traditional kind of like square here, where you've got all their lenses and sensors, where Samsung, you know, you've spread them out a little bit more. Obviously, there's a few more bits and pieces on the Samsung. Mainly noticeable, what we'll talk about later, is obviously we have a 3x zoom camera here, whereas where we have the LiDAR sensor here, what we actually have is like an infrared kind of sensor here from sort of Samsung with doing all of their kind of portrait photos and things like that. But the other thing then obviously to notice is the actual thickness of them. They're both very, very similar in their kind of thickness. And then kind of for buttons wise, well, Samsung keep all of its buttons all on one side. You've got your volume rocker and your power here all on one side. Whereas Apple, as you can see here in the same side, is we actually have the power button and we have all that new capture button. But I've got a feeling that Samsung are going to come along with something very similar. Maybe not in the S25 Ultra, probably the S26 Ultra is a bit too late, probably in development, but you never know. But the only other thing to obviously is on the other side here, we actually have the volume rockers and the action button here on the actual iPhone, whereas we don't have that with Samsung's completely clean side here, nothing at all on this one. And obviously you've got the SIM card tray if you're outside of France or the US, whereas here on the actual Galaxy S24 Ultra, it sits on the rear of it, but obviously on the bottom you don't have anything like that on the iPhone whatsoever. The other thing to notice obviously is that we do have USB-C on both of these phones, and then obviously we have the drill holes for microphones and speaker here for iPhone, whereas we actually have the speaker just here for the Samsung and the microphone just there next to the SIM card. But the other cool thing, as you obviously will know with the Samsung, is that you get the actual pen as well. So yeah, if you're a big fan of this, obviously, you know, Samsung offer this for you, the Note kind of pen, whereas you do not get anything like that for the iPhone whatsoever. But over in build kind of quality, they feel, you know, very, very sturdy phones. Definitely really, really great flagship kind of quality, I would say, here on both of these phones, and I absolutely love them. But you know, it's a taste on how well it feels in your hand, and I would actually say holding it just like this, I would actually say probably the Samsung actually feels better in my hand, mainly because it's slightly curved edges where we have flat edges here. But obviously those edges up here not the best, I would say, whereas the edges up here are far better on the iPhone, a bit more smooth and rounder. So it depends, again, I'd say on taste, but really for both of these phones, you know, you can't go wrong with its design. They're both very unique to each other, and yeah, they're both absolutely fantastic. But then, moving on to the actual screens then, how good are each of these screens on these phones? Well, both the screen sizes are very similar in size. So the Galaxy S24 Ultra has a 6.8-inch diagonal, and then obviously the brand new iPhone 16 Pro Max diagonal has a 6.9-inch display now, just under that. So it's very, very similar sizes what we've got here on both of these phones. Now, the other thing I want to quickly say is obviously the brightness on both of these phones is also different. So the iPhone 16 Pro Max can go up to 2000 nits of brightness, but the Galaxy S24 Ultra can actually go all the way up to 2600 nits. So that's a little bit more brighter than what we get on the iPhone. So if you're out and about during the day, then I would actually say the Galaxy S24 Ultra will be slightly brighter there for you. The other thing to quickly note is obviously you've got the ProMotion OLED display inside of this iPhone, and to be honest, a very similar technology what's inside of Samsung's phone that we've got right here, and that is also a kind of like a 120 Hz refresh rate display. On both of these phones we can go all the way down to 1 Hz, so really in display technology very similar, but what I would say is that obviously the Galaxy S24 Ultra can go out a little bit brighter for you. But moving on from that, what about the software and the performance for both of these phones? So what we have here then is Geekbench 6, and obviously we are ready to go here. We've got the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, and we've got the A18 Pro inside of the iPhone. So let's run Geekbench, and then obviously what I'm going to do is I'm just going to speed along this test for you so you can guys see the results almost straight away. So there we go, let's have a look then at the results. So what we have here then with the Geekbench scores is obviously with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, it's definitely a little bit slower than compared to the A18 Pro inside of the iPhone. So obviously in single core performance, it's about 1/3 slower, and then obviously in multi-core performance, it does catch up a bit, but obviously it's behind there. And then with the iPhone, you can see here it's definitely ahead in single core and multi-core performance in CPU wise. But next of all, let's see then what graphics is going to do for us while doing some tests there. And one thing is that what I've done to make this test fair is obviously I've turned up the resolution to be absolutely full here on the actual Samsung, so we can run this on 3D Mark Wildlife Extreme on both of these. So let's get this test started then and see then what the difference is here in graphics tests on both of these phones. So just a quick start on both of them, and let's have a look then. Speed this along to the end, and let's see what the overall results are. So again, with the Samsung Galaxy S24, with that Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, it is definitely ahead here in graphics performance. There's a real shout out there compared to the Wildlife Extreme done on the iPhone with the A18 Pro. And just have a look here, look at the frames per second. We're getting 26.65 on the S24 Ultra, where we're only getting 23.5 frames per second on the iPhone. So definitely graphics wins here with a Snapdragon and also a Galaxy. But then for the actual software, what we've actually got this time is we've got One UI on this phone, what's basically Samsung's skinned version of Android 14 at the moment. There will be Android 15 coming soon in the future, maybe even when you're watching this video, we do actually have Android 15 on this, and that's pretty robust, to be deadly honest. And especially the fact now that with Samsung, they actually have Knox technology built behind this Android, so it's actually quite secure now. So if you're worried about Android and all the threats and things like that, Knox security is very good. And not forgetting that you've also got Samsung AI into this with loads of different features that Samsung are offering right now for this phone. And to be deadly honest, they also offer this on some of their older sort of flagship phones out there too. So this is really cool from them. Whereas from Apple with the iPhone 16 Pro Max, we have iOS 18. And we don't actually have any Apple Intelligence or any kind of AI bits and pieces at the time of making this video officially. But obviously it's in beta right now with iOS 18.1, and obviously there's going to be more 18.2 and so on, with more rollouts of AI features that are going to come out on the iPhone. And they are going to be pretty impressive. But right now at the stand when making this video, obviously the S24 Ultra comes out on top with AI features compared to the iPhone. But really for the overall experience of both of these phones, they're really the same now, I would actually say. Especially that with iOS 18, finally, Apple decided to give you the ability that you can move apps around and things like this. So this is really handy now to have. But then for actual future software updates, what about them? Well, Samsung are now promising that you can get 7 major Android updates on their new Galaxy S24 Ultra. So yeah, this is pretty impressive to say the least there. But obviously you have to have this phone here, the latest S24 phones. If you have an older one, you won't get that. Whereas Apple have been offering to update their sort of older iPhones and at least giving them around 6 to 7 years of updates there, of OS updates there, and then obviously another additional year of security security updates too. So what I would say is that with this phone, we're probably going to get about the same there. We're going to get 67 sort of years of sort of updates there. So 6 to 7 is really not that bad at all, what Apple have been offering all these years. So really, again, I would say this is kind of neck and neck, but obviously Apple don't promise this, but I've got a feeling this is going to always be the case now going forwards, especially like competitors out there like from Samsung and also even like Google, for example, offering this many years of 7 years of updates going into the future. But next of all, let's talk about camera features and samples that we have for both of these phones. So as you can see, it's a gloomy day here on the iPhone, but obviously this is a 0.5 zoom we got here, and then we went all the way up to a normal 1x on the wide there, and then I'm going to increase this up then to the actual 2x zoom option was on the phone, and then we're going to push this up to the Teleprism Telephoto 5x zoom, what we have here looking at this tree right here, and then I decided to push it up to the digital zoom, what you've got here, it can go all the way up to 25x zoom. Then for the Samsung, obviously this is 0.6, what we've got right here, and then obviously I increased that up to the 1.0 or the 1, you know, standard wide ultra one we got here, and then obviously this is the 3x zoom, what's standard on a Samsung with its own camera dedicated for that, and then obviously this is the 5x, it's also a dedicated camera on here. But then what I've decided to do after that, I've decided to match the iPhone at the 25x zoom of what the iPhone can go up to as its maximum, but obviously the Samsung can go all the way up to 100x zoom, as you can see right here. But then let's have a look at nighttime photography. So here's the iPhone and how it looks here with the 16 Pro Max at 1x, and then with the 5x, this is how it looks here with nighttime photography. But then let's now flick over to the Samsung, and again this is at a 1x what we've got here, and then what we're going to do is we're going to look at the 5x zoom, and that's a 5x zoom. Personally, I'm in more preference to the iPhone here in nighttime photography. So next of all, let's do video recording tests, and I'm going to say it's tipping it down here in good old Britain. So let's do this quickly then. So this is a 0.5 zoom at 4K 60 frames per second. This is what we're going to do on both of these phones. 0.5, that's a 1x zoom. We have the 2x zoom, and then we have the 5x zoom, and then we have the digital zoom, which can go all the way up to a 15x zoom capability there. You can actually see the raindrops and everything there falling around. And here we are then on the Galaxy S24 Ultra. So this is at a 0.6 zoom, that's a 1x zoom, that is its 3x zoom what it has, 5x zoom, and then obviously you can push this all the way up to the furthest of a 20x digital zoom here on video recording on the Galaxy S24 Ultra there. So next of all, let's talk about battery life and charging speeds, and starting out with battery life. Now there has been a load of different mixed reviews of which one of these phones is on top, as you can see right here. One of the clear ones out there is from Mr. Who's the Boss, who's actually said that the Galaxy S24 Ultra actually came out on top ahead of the iPhone 16 Pro Max. However, lots of other battery tests out there from other people are actually saying the iPhone 16 Pro Max comes out on top instead. And this is quite unusual. And the only way that I have an answer for this is obviously that Mr. Who's the Boss does a different type of tests for his phones when he does them, whereas other testers, they're doing other types of tests, and it depends on what you're actually running on your phone is what I would say, depending on how long the battery life is. But overall, the battery life on both these phones, you know, they're within probably about, 12% of each other there, depending on what type of test you're doing, depending on the scenarios on them. So really what I would say is they are neck and neck. Whereas though I would say is the Galaxy S24 Ultra, Samsung have definitely declared it out there. This has a 5,000 milliamp battery inside of it, and with that Snapdragon as well, it's really efficient. Whereas, with iPhones here, Apple, with the A18 Pro, that is a super efficient sort of chip inside of this phone, but obviously the battery is only like about a 4,000 sort of 500 milliamp sort of battery inside of this now. So obviously, yeah, it's quite cool to actually see that, iPhones and Apple, they're making them super efficient, and obviously they're still catching matching up to the likes of, say, the Galaxy S24 Ultra that we have here. But for charging speeds, well, that is a bit of a different story. And personally, what I would say is I think that the iPhone actually comes out on top here. And that is with Samsung. They're saying that you can actually charge up to 15 watts with wireless charging with their phone, whereas Apple now is saying that you can actually charge up to 25 watts MagSafe charging on the rear, as long as you buy one of their brand new MagSafe sort of chargers out there. And then obviously you plug this into a 30-watt charger. It can't be a 25-watt charger, but it has to be a 30-watt charger or above, and you get 25 watts of wireless charging. What is pretty impressive, to say the least. So yeah, that is really, really cool. The other thing is that both these phones can actually charge at 45 watts, but there is a catch with that. The only way you can do that wired sort of charging at 45 watts with both these phones is that obviously with the Galaxy S24 Ultra, you have to buy the official 45-watt charger from Samsung to make this work. Otherwise, you get less wattage going into your phone. That doesn't come in the box, obviously, so you do have to pay out more for that, and you'd have to carry that around with you all the time. Whereas with iPhones, well, you can also charge up to 45 watts, but you can use any type of charger out there as long as it's 45 watts or above with using USB-C. So yeah, I would actually say for charging speeds, you know, the iPhone comes out on top here, especially it's also got MagSafe as well, what is really, really handy. So yeah, personally, I would say the iPhone is better here. But overall, after all of that, it's crunch time now. What about the price on both of these phones? Well, what I would say is with the iPhone 16 Pro Max, you get 256 gigabytes of storage as standard as the base model, and that comes in just under $1,200 for this phone. What is the same price as last year, and also the same price as, say, a second tier sort of iPhone storage for many, many years now. So no changes there. Whereas with the Samsung, to get 256 gigabytes of storage, it actually costs $100 more. So it's $1,300. However, with that, there's always lots of deals right now with the Galaxy S24 Ultra that you can actually probably get this cheaper than that. Or, for example, like on Samsung's website, you can see right here, you can double your storage up to 512 gigabytes for the same price. So really, you know, I would actually say it's not impossible to get it at 1,300 with 256 gigabytes of storage inside, but obviously there's always deals going on to get it cheaper, or there's deals to get more storage inside for the same price. So with this one, I would actually have to say it's probably neck and neck here on kind of price and sort of value, especially that, like I said, those deals with the S24 Ultra. But what I would say with the iPhone 16 Pro Max, because it's so new, there's not going to be any kind of brilliant deals out there, apart from maybe trade-in values. But obviously, Samsung also offers some great trade-in values too when you want to purchase one of these. But with that overall, guys, that is my conclusion for both these phones. I think personally, in my opinion, I think it's a matter of taste now on which phone you want to go for. Obviously, Samsung does have the superior kind of zoom capabilities in its camera, and for example, like that, iOS 18 is more polished and better. I would say that too. Obviously, charging speeds are better in the iPhones and things like this. But you know, I would just say personally for both these phones, I would say it's definitely a matter of choice which one you go for, and it's up to you which one you want to pick. But with that as well, guys, it's time to wrap up this video. So if you have enjoyed watching it, please do press the like button. Also, if you want to hear the latest Apple news, reviews, and comparisons like we've done today, make sure you subscribe to this channel and also hit that notification bell too. Until next time, guys, I'll see you really soon. Take care. Bye-bye.